Hello, this is Dan Zaire, Mr. Zaire in the English department here at Washington Community High School, and I'm going to show you a little bit about what it means to use Google Classroom. I have pulled up my Composition 111 5th hour, and it's really nice here. As you can see, here's the stream of all of my assignments. It tells you the date, when they are due. It gives you a link to click on for outside links. Here's my schedule for the week. This is just a Google document where my students can pull it up and see what is expected of them for the week. So it's really nice. Here are different assignments and notes that I can give. It gives me a lot of options to communicate with my students and for them to see their assignments. I also have the student button. This shows me all the students that I have, and it gives me a couple of options here. I can click on the student's name. We'll pick Seth, and I click on Actions. It allows me to remove him from the class if he transferred to another class, and allows me to email him or allows me to mute him. I'm going to pick email. Let's say I have something that I need to ask him about a specific paper. So I click email, and it automatically pulls up my Washington email, and I can email him right from here, get instant feedback from him when he checks his email, which is really nice. If I have a lesson or something I need to add to the whole class, I click this and it automatically clicks everyone, and then I can just email the entire class if I need to do it that way. Pulls up everybody. So it's a very, very useful tool for communicating with students. The About is just a little section that tells me what the class is. That's just something that I see. And let me show you some examples of different assignments. Let's go down here. We'll scroll down. Top to bottom is the most recent, of course. Here's an example of the research paper topic list. So I click on this, and this is a document that they can all edit together. Then instead of me handing out a piece of paper, I can do it in this fashion, and I can see what all of my students' topics are for their research paper. Here's an example of me giving them an assignment. It says here assignment. It's an annotated bibliography. All my students will get an email saying that I have created an assignment, and their screen will look similar to this. And they click this button right here, and each of them instantly gets a copy of the assignment, which I have created here, showing them how to do some things for me to add note cards and a bibliography to their account for their research paper. So that's really nice. Now, here's the big thing. When they turn in an assignment to me, and I will show you how to do that very soon, let's scroll down to a recent paper that I got. This is a refutation paper, final draft. I can click on this, and here are all my students' papers. It tells me when they're late and when they are finished, which is nice. And to be fair for these students, the students who were late were not here, so their papers are in fact not late. They all did a great job. It's a really good class. So let's pick on Gavin for this one. Click on his name, and I click on this, and it pulls up his paper. Instead of a paper copy, I have his actual paper. As you can see, I've already graded this. So I go through here. It looks like I misspelled a word. Well, that's easy to fix. So I can go through here, and I can edit these papers. If there's something that I have a question about, I can go up here to the Edit button, and this is true of all Google documents. I click this, and I go to Suggesting. Once I do that, I'm able to type on the student's paper, and I have pre-selected that I want my font to be green. And I can say, "Nice work." The student, when they pull up their paper, they can click on what I said, and a little arrow will be right here, and it shows them that I added "nice work." They can see that I'm commenting on their papers. Another thing I can do, besides giving them praise, is to point out things that possibly need to be corrected. Here's an example where a student wrote a fact, and they did not put where they got their information from. So I just simply wrote cite. Then they can see after the sentence that they require an in-text citation to prove where they got their information from. So it's very, very handy. I can make comments at the end of each paper. I can give my overall opinions. There's just a lot of things you can do. You can write on a student's paper, you can edit their paper, things of that nature. Let's say, for instance, now this one is correct. Let's say, for instance, that this student forgot to add a period at the end of their sentence, which Gavin would not do. But I'll delete it. What happens here when the student gets it, they pull up the document, and there are three options here. There's a check, which means they accept my change, or there's an X where they can get rid of it. In this case, we know the period belongs, so we will delete it. And now the paper goes back to the way that it was. If, for example, this needed to be an exclamation point, when the student gets this, if they agree with me, oh, I should have put an exclamation point, then they check it, and the paper is changed for them. So either way, you've got some great stuff here going on as far as being able to edit a student's paper, to make comments, to make suggestions, and it's all paperless, so they can keep track of it anywhere in the world that they have access to the internet. They can look at their papers, they can look at my comments, and they can edit them. It comes in very, very handy to communicate. On this assignment page, I'll go back one more and we'll see it again. They can go, they can show me their papers. I can click this folder here, and what that does is it pulls up my Google Drive, and it shows me all the papers that were turned in that the students gave to me, which is very nice. I can also click download, and it will download all the papers onto my hard drive if I want to, either individually or as an entire class. That's kind of how it works. Now let's pretend like I'm creating an assignment. I click on the assignment button, and I title the assignment. Down here I can put a description of the assignment if I want to, which we won't do for this because it is a test. But here's the big one. I pull up my calendar. Let's say I want this due next Wednesday. Then I can click Add Time, and I can ask the computer or Google Classroom to say that if my paper, this assignment is not turned in by 1:30, it will be considered late. And I can go here, and I can add my paper or my assignment to the student. Let's say I'm going to add this. This is not a real assignment, but for demonstration purposes it will do. I can add the assignment here, and it shows up for the students to see. Now, here's the thing I can do, another nice option. I have three options here. I can create this assignment where students can only look at my paper, but they can't edit it. Or I can click this where there's just one copy and everyone can edit it at the same time. Or I can click on Make a Copy for each student. That means each student has their own copy of this assignment. They can edit it, they can do what they want, but it will only be their mark. Whereas if I put Students Can Edit file, everyone has the exact same paper and everyone can write on it and write notes on each other's paper. As soon as I click Assign, two things happen. The assignment is created and the students know what they have to do. It also makes it so that everyone will get an email automatically saying that for Composition 111, 5th hour, this is your assignment for the day. So students have two ways of finding out what their assignment is. Three, actually. The teacher would tell them, it will show up on their Google Classroom when they check it, or they will get an email. So since this is not a real assignment, I don't want my students to get this and think they have something to do for this because it's just our test, so I'm going to hit cancel and it's going to go away. If I click announcement, it's pretty much the same thing, but there's nothing for them to turn in. It just shows them that they have an announcement of what's going on. They can hit post. One thing I didn't show you, which you can click here, if I teach the same class but multiple sections, I can click here, and as soon as I hit post, every one of my students in their respective classes will get the same announcement. This prevents me from having to create the same thing 2 or 3 different times. So I'm going to cancel this here. And that's kind of how this works. If you click on this button right here, it shows all the classes I have created. So every student can kind of see what is going on here. This is my freshman class. They have a documentary. There are a few students who are not here, so they can click on this assignment and it will take them automatically to the YouTube video, and they can watch the video at home that they need to do for their assignment. Then they will understand what's going on. They don't have to worry about loaning out a video or anything like that because it's all right there. That's pretty much how Google Classroom works. It's a very, very helpful tool. It helps you to communicate with your students, and it also allows you to be able to create multiple assignments, and students can keep track of their papers because it's all digital. They can't lose anything as long as they have an ability to log on to the internet. The other thing I want to show you is Turnitin.com. This is an excellent tool for teachers and students to use, and we'll use this Comp 11 class. What this does is it allows me to create another digital classroom, but it's a little bit different than Google Classroom, and one of the biggest things that it does is this. I click on View. Here are all the papers my students turned in. This shows me the percentage of papers that they have done. You want it to be low. So the green and the yellow is what we're looking for. And this is the percentage of words or sentences they have used that have shown up on another person's paper. Let's look at the top one. It says Matt Johnson did his final draft, and I can click on this button right here for grade. Here's what it does. It pulls up the paper for me, and this is where I can grade this paper. If this paper needs a citation, I can grab this, click it over here, and it automatically tells them that they need to cite the paper. It gives them a link to do so they can see a better way to understand this idea if they don't want to ask me. And I'm deleting that because I don't need to see it right now. And it also automatically pulls up things that they need to correct. If I click on possessive, it says you may need to add an apostrophe to show possession. So it tells them that they need to fix their paper. So not only does the system do it, but I can add in my own personal grades as well. You can also add a new library here if you want to add new things that you want to comment on. PeerMark is another option. It does not appear to be working right now, but what it does is allow students to go in and edit each other's paper, which is nice. Here's the one that is probably the best. This is the originality. What this shows me over here, and we already knew there was 2% of the paper that came from somewhere else. So I see right here, here's an internet source that someone used. I click on this, and it automatically shows me where in Matt's paper someone's other words came from. And here I can see, based on this citation, this is just an introduction to a source. It's not plagiarism. They were just citing their source correctly. That's why it's pulling it up, because it doesn't quite know the difference. Here's another one, submitted to Washington. This means another student's paper somewhere in Washington High School, in the history of us having Turnitin.com, flagged this. So let's click it and see what it is. It's a source. What that tells me is that someone in the school at some point used Aaron Kaplan's article, Freedom of Speech in School and Prison. This is not a concern at all. It means that the student did their due diligence, and they are able to find sources that another person at some point in the history of Washington found helpful too. Another thing you can do here is you can create an assignment. Let's say I want to create a peer review assignment. Add assignment. I'll do a PeerMark assignment. What this means, I pick a paper that I want my students to review with one another, and I pick the dates I want it to be due. When I'll accept late grades, things like that. I can put the point value for how much this is worth. Let's pretend like it's 80 points. And then I hit save and continue. And it allows me to do this. It allows me to pick how many students I want to see each other's papers. Let's say I have 25 students in the class, and I think they should look at least 5 other students' papers. And I also think they should have to look at their own paper too. So that means they're going to have to look at 6 different papers in the class. I hit save and continue. It allows me to pick from a library I've already created where I have certain questions that I want students to answer about the paper that they read. I can add the question, I can edit the question. I have a lot of options here, but as soon as I'm done, I click Add All Questions, and